Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are live on Zoom and Facebook Live again. And once again, welcome to the first AICT IATC conference in Southeast Asia titled Trans, organized by the Department of Dramatic Arts, Faculty of Arts, Chula University, and IATC Thailand Center, with the kind support from the Office of Contemporary Art and Culture, Ministry of Culture. Contemporary Arts and Culture Contemporary Arts and Culture Industry Promotion Trade Association of Thailand, or CAPT, and Embassy of France in Thailand. For this session, which is paper session number 5, we are focusing on transmediation and transcendence, and also transcultural. And we have 4 papers scheduled for this session. Slight change of schedule. This session will be from 2 p.m., which is now, going on until 3:30. Okay, so once again, from 2 p.m. until 3:30. And please welcome my old friend, one of the first friends in IATC, Manabu Noda from IATC Japan Center, and a member of the ExCom of IATC. Manabu.
Thank you, Parvit, and thank you for your kind introduction. Yes, I'll be serving as a moderator of this session entitled Transmediation and Transcendence, and also Transculture, because we have one very important addition that we had to miss yesterday. Now she's making a wonderful comeback. So her name is Kanya Sompebun, that you all know because you all met yesterday. 15 minutes each. And again, the timetable is from 1400 to 1530. So as our first speaker, we have Felicia Kukuta on Zoom. Close. Do you have her on Zoom? Hello. Hello, but we did. Okay, great. So Felicia is a researcher in contemporary Francophone theater, specializing in contemporary Francophone theater during her PhD at Harvard University. She works in culture and performance studies, as well as playwriting and the intersections of theater and digital humanities. And the title of her paper that she will be graciously sharing with us is Transmediation, or Theatre's Redefinition of Care Ethics. So, Felicia, please.
Thank you so much for inviting And here are the according to the researchers, term would be based on caring about, taking care of, caregiving, and care receiving. So attentiveness, competence, responsiveness, and responsibility. So that's made me think, how do you translate it in your languages? Because in my mother tongue, we don't really have a perfect translation. We have a multitude of terms that could translate it. We have some verbs, some nouns, but that made me rethink care in a different language that helps me express, if not care, then the concepts connected to it. So nowadays, the term care as a noun in English is generally understood as concern or personal interest or carefulness, or even medical attention or protection, whereas the verb revolves around looking after or tending to. And although the connotations of the term have changed in time, etymologically, care in Old English revolved around not only solicitude but also suffering, utterance of sorrow, mourning, lamentation, grief, anxiety, or a burdened state of mind. So we've seen the theoretical and the dictionary definitions of this term, but the use of language keeps evolving, and it's generational, it's geographical, it's cultural, and also personal. This is why I related to the artist on which I'm going to focus today, which is Wajdi Mouawad, and his redefinition of care, as I have to stress the fact that I use his work only as a case study. The care that interests me is the plurality of nuances that have been lost perhaps in modern English and that are elusive to other languages because they escape translation. The care that I choose to explore in my work is the notion for which the existing research on care ethics has not defined, but which I consider nonetheless fundamental in order to understand the world we live in. And this is the reason why, to me, a dramaturgy of care needs a language of care, either verbal, as reflected in the script or the textual version of the play, or nonverbal, the theatrical elements that contribute to the visual, oral, sensory dimension of the performance. That is the reason why I analyze and redefine care as a deliberate interest in several elements I explore, one of them being transmediation. Here we have other examples: care as a constant preoccupation with making humanity, or care as an inclusive space of storytelling, or as an empowering decolonization and systematic undoing of colonial paradigms, as identity, memory, heritage, and legacy, as connectedness and relatedness, as a ritualistic function of mourning, whereas what is something that I really focus on in my work is dialogue and mediation, aiming to build collective resilience. So the care of the corpus that I analyze delves into care that is far from being perfect. Staging care highlights the plurality of nuances it can take, as well as the numerous ways in which it can also fail. If the theoretical framework of care ethics can teach us how to think, then looking at theater and artists and their own approaches to theater, that can teach us how to feel, and through its para-theatrical initiatives, extracts us from a passive role and prompts us to take action and make humanity in our own communities. So the ways in which I see theater is as transmediation, which I see as a transposition of a specific content, let's say performance or performing elements, into a different form in order to facilitate intergenerational dialogue. The reason why I am interested in this author, in this artist, is because apart from his playwriting career, his directing and also acting career, he's also been the representative of a national theater school, of a national theater in France, in Paris, and he has just announced that he's going to give up on this position next year. So I'm interested in him because he's a well-established and institutionally recognized figure, not only in the French-speaking world or in Europe, but all over the world. He's a polymorphous artist in the process of being canonized, being part of the syllabus in different institutions. And he engages with care and transmediation in all the sphere of his career, because he looks at reparation, solidarity, allyship. And reading and researching his work teaches us how to feel about care, how to understand our identity, how to live with the other, but also how to understand theater in a much more inclusive context. And so I focus on his work as a case study for the vast possibilities of theatre as it reflects the lived, the embodied, the shared experience theatre fills in the gaps that history, theory, or even public record fail to register. So I'm going to give some examples of a theatre as transmediation and intergenerational dialogue, which are some initiatives for, about, and with the youth, which dominated Mwawad's pandemic activity. And that helps us redefine care as an interest in transmediation, co-creation. And to me, theatre, unlike any other literary genres or even theory, theatre transforms into a space of dialogue conducive to intergenerational dialogue, first of all, and socially engaged projects that it hosts to action. And this is the reason why theatre is very important, because it resides in its versatility, interactivity. It has the potential to become inclusive and accessible. The theatre is a collective experience of dialogue, co-creation, participation, and empowerment. It also becomes a space of interaction between local and global realities, and it's a catalyst for civic action. And so this is the reason why I'm looking at one of Mwawad's initiatives during the pandemic, which is called La Jeune Troupe de la Colline, so the young generation of actors of La Colline, which is the name of the theatre in Paris that he was a director of. And as described in the press release, this project originated as an aftermath of a youth and student movement, Occupé, that started in March 2021 at the Theatre L'Odéon in Paris, and later on spread to various other institutions in Paris. And those 3 months during which La Colline was occupied by intermittents, by students and young people, allowed for a careful reflection on what goals, values, and ambitions La Colline has, especially as a national theatre. So with this project, the artists aim to support emerging artists and encourage their integration on the professional market, giving them access to the tools, resources, and various opportunities the theatre had. Another project would be Colloque and Agora Jeunesse, which is very important in terms of transmediation, because it animated topics that the youth care about, such as identity, gender, decolonial, anti-racist aspects, through art as a vector of emancipation. And this project cares about the youth, strives towards empathy, mediated through the freedom of expression. Colloque Jeunesse is at the core of Agora Jeunesse. It's a project devoted to the youth, and it revolves 8 young volunteers who discuss the themes they're interested in, and it opens the space of theatre to something more. Another initiative would be the Jeunes Reporters de la Colline, the young reporters of La Colline. Then again, young volunteers from 16 to 25 are given the opportunity to attend performances, participate in the workshops, but also discussions, which is something that the artist Wajdi Mawad is very interested in, giving the youth a voice, as well as lycéens citoyens, so high school citizens. So he invites young people to discuss and talk about the things that are interested in, and it empowers teenagers as a member of the audience to go beyond the passive function they may fulfill by encouraging them to speak out and analyze the shows they attend, the performances of the artists associated with theatre. And the largest project would be Avoir 20 ans en 2015, so being 20 in 2015, in which Mawad led 5 groups of 10 young people from different parts of Europe and also Saint-Denis de la Réunion as well, or Montréal in Canada, so all over the world. And he was trying to use this concept of having an agora that we associate with Greek theatre, because he was working on Sophocles at the time, and he was trying to create an agora for young people in which the civic engagement was essential. So instead of using theatre and making a performance with the youth, he transmediated theatre, opened the theatre space for them, created it, transformed it into an agora, and gave them free power of expression, so that the students the participants would be able to express themselves and to think about issues that were essential to the world they lived in. And he structured around four aspects around a verb. Like, for instance, they would have a meeting in Athens, which was called Read. So it's a city of literacy. Write in Lyon, where printing was developed. Count in Auschwitz, where numbers have become a symbol of Shoah, of Holocaust. And Speak in Dakar, famous for its oral tradition. And so this is something that has been extremely important to him. And such types of projects, which are considered active participation in the sociocultural life for populations that are even marginalized, which were most of the participants in these initiatives, this is a definition of mediation. And so it was relying on space, expression, and encounter as its main pillars, and represents a device that invites the youth to have access to a space of empathy by moving from the individual to the collective, and from the collective to the individual, back and forth, being in a constant transmediation. So seen from the perspective of the cultural transmediation, it draws on the importance of the artist's responsibility, as it gives the young participants access to arts by promoting a valorization and continuation of cultural practices. This is something conducive to experimentation that allows the emancipation of the youth, and these initiatives are designed for and with the youth. And it's a position that comes with attentiveness, with responsibility, with competence and responsiveness, as well as a commitment of the artist towards the participants. So Mwawad's work, either cultural mediation initiatives or performances, they are anchored in care ethics. And this constant movement of his initiatives show the importance transmediation has for theatre and the ability of theatre, the possibilities of theatre in the modern world nowadays, to open its space to something that goes beyond its initial purpose. So as I'm trying to wrap up my presentation, I would like to leave you with this question. What gestures of care are you in your practice planning on making in order to contribute to an ethically improved world? How are you going to use transmediation in your own work in order to give more access to people, in order to bring an improvement and an important contribution to your community? Thank you so much for the carefulness with which you listened to my presentation, and thank you for making the time to be part of my presentation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Felicia. Yes, well, actually, Mawad was performed in Japanese translation many times. So I would say that now being able to listen to the names that I'm familiar with. So, our second presenter is, as you already know, Kapapum Namtamku, is my pronunciation correct? Sorry. If everything that is inappropriate. He belongs to Dramatic Arts and Social Education Research Unit, Faculty of Arts at Longfellow University. And the title of his paper is Transdisciplinary Perspective on Voice Coach for Actors Using Wheelchairs. Oh, just like music. Narrative review to transcend theatre pedagogy bounds. So, exciting title. So, Boone, please. Let's share my screen. I think I'm doing the right way. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My topic is transdisciplinary perspective of training for actors using wheelchairs and LGBTQ content to other purposes without political boundaries. So I'll start with the idea that the traditional speech and voice training methodologies in actors have been developed with a focus on non-visible performers.
leaving a significant gap in pedagogical approaches for actors using wheelchairs. As both theater educators specializing in voice training and also a clinical speech-language pathologist myself, I have encountered numerous challenges when coaching students to use wheelchairs. Questions arise regarding how to safely and effectively support these students, what physical and physiological limitations must be considered, and how to communicate in an inclusive and empowering manner within the training process. In addition, there is a need to understand how to expand expressive and technical abilities of actors using wheelchairs while preserving safety and well. Beyond the immediate concerns, broader question of who is involved in the training process to ensure interdisciplinary support for actors using wheelchairs. The lack of comprehensive pedagogical models that integrate expertise across disciplines highlights a critical gap, underscoring the urgent need for research in this area. And as an educator, I believe that it is essential to continuously question, critique, and refine our pedagogical practices to promote a more inclusive and effective learning environment. Theater pedagogy must evolve to address the various needs of all performers, ensuring the voice training is not only accessible, but also empowering for actors using wheelchairs. So in this study, there are two major research questions. The first one is that, what is the current state of knowledge in the literature on how voice training for actors using wheelchairs can be adapted to ensure safety, effectiveness, and inclusivity within theater pedagogy? And the second question is that, what theoretical frameworks from healthcare, voice pedagogy, disability studies, and sports science for athletes with disabilities can inform the development of inclusive approach to voice training for actors using wheelchairs? The methodology for this paper is narrative review. I employed the narrative review methodology to synthesize interdisciplinary knowledge from healthcare, voice pedagogy, disability studies, and sports science for athletes with disability, with aim to identify limitations in existing voice training models and proposing a more inclusive framework. This is a semi-structured search strategy was implemented using Google Scholar, PubMed, Scopus, and other relevant research database, as well as books. Additional Google videos and YouTube research for published interviews to identify relevant case studies and first-hand accounts. So given the limited direct literature on voice training for actors using wheelchair, no exclusion criteria were applied to ensure a comprehensive synthesis in this case. As I mentioned, this review integrates insights from 4 key disciplines: healthcare, voice pedagogy, disability studies, and sports science, to establish a transdisciplinary approach to adaptive voice training for actors using wheelchair. Each field contributes essential knowledge to bridge the gap between current theater voice pedagogy and the unique voice and the unique needs of wheelchair using performers. For example, healthcare will investigate the respiratory function, postural adaptation, and muscle engagement in wheelchair users, alongside with mental health factors for those using wheelchairs. From voice pedagogy, I examine past and current practices as well as trends in science-informed voice pedagogy, evaluating how evidence-based approaches address breath support, vocal endurance, and accessibility in actors training. In disability studies, I examine ableist assumptions in voice pedagogy, applying social and medical models of disability to advocate for accessible training methods and greater equity in actors training. From sports science, I draw from breath support and endurance training in wheelchair sports to explore postural efficiency, respiratory techniques, and stamina building methods applicable to voice training. So I'm just going to walk through the 4 disciplines that I mentioned. Let's start from the healthcare perspective. So for actors using wheelchair, we know that they face physiological challenges, which include in reduced lung capacity and weakened respiratory muscle. They may have outer breathing mechanism due to seated posture. There's a literature mentioned the importance of ergonomic wheelchair that designed to support the optimal vocal production. We know that the respiratory function declines in wheelchair user, particularly those with a spinal cord injury due to weakened inspiratory and expiratory muscle, leading to decreased vital capacity and breath control. In terms of psychological considerations, the research mentioned that wheelchair users often experience the FOF, or we call the fear of falling, and anxiety, affecting vocal expression, also the social isolation and stigma impacting self-confidence as well. So there's a recommendations on psychological strategy, which are confidence building exercises, the mindfulness of cognitive behavioral interventions, or creating supportive and also accessible environment for actors using wheelchair. In voice pedagogy and actors using wheelchair historically integrated artistic practice, empirical research, and scientific insights. Actually, the voice pedagogy itself assumes able body norm, which is standing posture with full respiratory control. And there are challenges for wheelchair using actor, which, as I said, from the first domain that they may have outer breathing mechanism, different diaphragmatic mobility and rib cage expansion, and also increased respiratory demands highlighted by professional actors as they give in the interview. Despite adaptations, mainstream training remained limited by rigidity and lack of disability-specific integration. Institutions often fail to provide accessible rehearsal space and inclusive teaching protocol as well. So within this domain, we found that explicit integration of disability, inclusive pedagogy is still in need, and we need institutional support and the universally designed training environment and curriculum and collaboration across disciplines. Drawn from disability studies, we found that ableism, this term is challenging is also a challenge in voice training for actors using wheelchair as well. Theater training traditionally assume what we call able body norms, and the term ableism is a systemic exclusion, stigma, and limited opportunity for disabled actors. There's a critical need to shift from what we call a medical model, which we look at disabilities as something to be cured, something that you can get rid of, or something when you have something not good in your body and you need to cure, to a social model, which is an inclusive practice and provide a more inclusive and universally designed space and also environment, the curriculum for everyone. We recognize the ableism and dismantle institutional barriers, which is very important from the disability studies. From sports science, we found that the reduced respiratory capacities and increased fatigue in seated athletes was reported in sports science literature. And there's one thing that we may explore more, which is the IMT, or the inspiratory muscle training, which is a training of muscle that's used for inhalation. We found a significantly enhanced breath control, endurance, and vocal stamina. Practical application for vocal professionals using wheelchairs may be explored using this framework integration as well. So, in this paper, I will call it's a preliminary integrative recommendation, which is we need to develop a voice training methods that responsive to seated posture and respiratory mechanics, like sitting. We need to employ inclusive voice techniques that accommodates diverse physicality. We need to apply sports science-based respiratory training to build vocal stamina. And we need to foster the interdisciplinary collaboration between healthcare, disability advocates, and theater professionals. In the future, we may conduct an empirical studies validating the adaptive vocal technique for actors using wheelchair, or maybe qualitative research exploring life experience of wheelchair using actor, and also develop an inclusive theater curricula and rehearsal protocols, making disability inclusion central, not in marginal states. So, from my paper, I hope that the voice pedagogy must evolve to empower wheelchair using actors effectively and safely. We need to proactively challenge the ableism and adopt inclusive practices in theater training. And I hope that this is an invitation to interdisciplinary partnership and dialogue to build a genuine inclusive theater environment which is effective and safe for our wheelchair actors in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Boom. Okay, so again about caring and care. So we have been given many opportunities and many chances, many keywords to consider this a very important subject, not only in theater but also in society. Our third speaker is on Zoom. Paskevi Tekunidu, are you there?
I'm here. Hello.
Great. Hello. Nice to see you. Yeah, she's from Greece, and she's a dramaturg, dance researcher, critic, curator, and educator. She's currently the Athens and Epidaurus Festival dance curator. And the title that she will be graciously sharing with us is Transcending Artistic Boundaries. Sound as co-dramaturgy in contemporary choreography. Again, a very interesting and exciting title. So, Paskevi, it's all yours.
So, hello from Athens. I'm happy in this gathering. Very exciting. So, I will try not to exceed the 15 minutes limit, and I'll start sharing my screen. Okay. Can you see the presentation? So, in the context of this conference, we view contemporary performing arts as diverse, multifaceted, and blending multiple disciplines. Contemporary choreography, in particular, has expanded and redefined the very notion of dance by integrating tools, strategies.
Excuse me, Paskevi. Could you talk into the microphone? The sound quality
So
is...
it's very bad. Now it's better.
Yeah, now it's much better. Thank you.
Okay, I will restart. So, in the context of this conference, we view contemporary performing arts as diverse, multifaceted, and blending multiple disciplines. Contemporary choreography, in particular, has expanded and redefined the very notion of dance by integrating tools, strategies, mechanisms, and ways of thinking and creating from various fields, such as science, philosophy, history, ethnography, technology, and the arts, especially visual arts. This cross-disciplinary and inter-artistic approach manifests not only in performances presented in alternative spaces and experimental festivals, but also in large-scale productions that tour prestigious theaters and renowned festivals, including the Athens and Epidaurus Festival, where I work as a dance program advisor. This field thrives on diversity. The fusion of disciplines and artistic genres unlocks endless creative possibilities, giving rise to a vast range of choreographic practices and forms. Within these forms, disciplines do not simply coexist, they interact in dynamic and multifaceted ways. They may be coupled, juxtaposed, merged, traversed, set in opposition, or brought into unexpected alignments. This interplay is often formative, meaning each material retains its unique qualities while engaging in dialogue with others. On stage, the different materials introduce each one multiple discourses that merge, collide, intertwine, and reshape one another. This performative entanglement allows choreography to function as a site of continuous negotiation where meaning is not fixed but emerges fluidly through interaction. The audience is invited to engage equally on kinesthetically, orally, intellectually, and visually. The spectator play a vital role in navigating the interactions between different practices, disciplines, and art forms. Their perception of the work proximity to a dance piece, concert, an immersive experience, or a broader concept or performance shape how they identify themselves as audience members, spectators, viewers, participants, or listeners, and sometimes even all of the above at once. This identification in turn influences their expectations and interpretation of the piece, shaped by their own experiences, knowledge, and ideas about not only choreography but also the world. This diverse association remains deeply connected to what is happening on stage. The various artistic material and the multiple layers of discourse that shape the work's dramaturgical foundation. The interaction between these materialities and discourses dictates the performance's rhythm and pace, forming its unique identity, its singular DNA that extends into the audience's thought, influencing their interpretations, association, and overall experience. The discussion on spectatorship sparks a dialogue between the discourses embedded in the work and the materials means through which they are expressed. Analyzing and understanding these elements requires a comprehensive tool that bridges both ends of the theatrical process, encompasses the entire journey of the piece, from creation to perception. Dramaturgy serves as this essential analytical framework. It links the creative process with audience perception, examining how meaning emerges through engagement. In contemporary dance, particularly within the European scene, dramaturgy has become a crucial concept. Since its integration into choreographic practice in the 90s, it has come to represent the dynamic relationship between the making of performance and spectatorship. Jonathan Barrow's description of dramaturgy encapsulates these ideas. Dramaturgy describes the thread of meaning, philosophical intent, or logic that allows the audience to accept and unite the disparate views you give them into a coherent whole, connecting to other reference points and context in the larger world. In this sense, dramaturgy functions as both a guiding principle for choreographers and a tool for spectators, enabling them to navigate the intricate layers of meaning within a performance. It helps to reveal how different elements, movement, sound, space, and interdisciplinary materials interact, shaping the audience's experience and interpretation. I will focus now on the theme of this presentation, on the interaction of sound as a co-dramaturgical element, exploring how it actively shapes the performative experience and influences the perception of choreography. In some choreographic work, sound is not merely an accompaniment to movement as it is usual in dance pieces, but a material force that actively reshapes effect, meaning, and performance structure. It merges within movement and other elements, dissolving rigid representation meaning while establishing coherence through affective resonance, which can be grasped not through fixed interpretations, but through sensory, emotional, and intellectual engagement. Even when sound is detached from its original context and appears non-representational, it still carries traces of its source, embedding layers of information that influences perception. Addressing this materiality of sound means recognizing that its tangible sonic qualities inherently carry multiple intangible stories shaped by personal and collective memory. For choreographers, these references may emerge from their personal archive of experiences and influences. However, even where their intentions are not explicitly articulated in a performance, musical choices inevitably evoke association for the audience, and I use music, as Patrice Pavis has discussed it, as all the acoustic elements that are in performance. These references may be broad and vary among individuals, yet they remain culturally specific. For instance, classical music is often linked to wealth, aristocracy, and the discourse of high culture, while a pop song, even if unfamiliar for the listener, may evoke contrasting associations. Such cultural references reveal how sound extends beyond its sonic properties, shaping perception through historical and social context. Western music theory often abstracts sound as a structured, self-contained phenomenon, prioritizing pitch, harmony, and rhythm while detaching it from real-world auditory experiences. In contrast, soundscape theory, as developed in the 60s by Schaeffer and Truex and has emerged since then, treats sound as a contextual and communicative force and emphasizes auditory experience as a constantly evolving network of social, cultural, and technological relations. This perspective emphasizes its role in shaping human perception and environmental relationship through active and passive listening. Rather than being a neutral background, sound is deeply tied to social, cultural, and ecological
Excuse me to
systems.
butt in. Have you changed the slides? Do you want to show different slides? I
No,
mean,
not yet.
we've been looking at the same slide, and we
No,
were
but the
wondering.
first one,
No,
I have changed, yes.
you're still on the first one.
No, oh, sorry, I have changed 5. What am I doing wrong?
Okay, so press function 5 if you are PC user, or the cup bearing mod,
What?
bottom right.
Mm,
Of the PowerPoint.
yes, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. My computer saves it. Okay, I will share it. Sorry.
Oops.
Now you still see the first page, right?
Yeah, we're still on. It's not the presentation mode. Your PowerPoint is not the presentation mode, so you got to go to the PowerPoint
Mine
and
is the
cop.
presentation view.
You
Sorry.
see bottom right. You have something like something that looks like a wine glass. Push that icon so that you can move on to the presentation mode. That way, if you want to show slide one by one, all you have to do is just press, press, press. Hello, Pascal, are you there?
I'm here. Sorry, I had some problem with my computer. I will try to reshare it. Sorry. Now, can you see? Are
Yeah,
you still
contact off
seeing?
pinabouts. Now we are
Okay, now we are
slide number 9. Thank you. Thank
so
you.
we are here. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Perfectly all right.
So
Please,
we are here. No,
please resume your
I
speech.
will
Thank you.
continue. Okay, I will. I was there when I'm talking about the soundscape theory, I think. So I'm going back to soundscape theory and saying that rather than being a neutral background, sound is deeply tied to social, cultural, and ecological system, carrying communal identity, class structure, power dynamics, and collective memory. These associations present choreographers with valuable opportunities to explore how sound itself accumulates and generates meaning within performance. This accumulation this accumulation, or in some cases the clash of meaning, does not occur symbolically, metaphorically, or mimetically. Sound is not mere representation. It does not stand in or resemble something else. Rather, it asserts its own presence, evoking powerful effects that within the chart's theatrical space transcend its materiality. When treated in this performative way, a national anthem, a lullaby, a march, a folk song, or even Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, once recognized and linked to its cultural origins, function as an autonomous force, carrying traces of its own discourse. When combined with other performance elements, those traces generate diverse associations shaped by each spectator's personal experiences and knowledge. Investigating sound
Are you sure, again, please, are you sure you're showing the slide
Yes,
that you want to be
I'm
showing? It's
still
now
there,
number
yes.
7.
Yes, I know, but then it's still this one.
Yeah, you
So
were on
you're-
number 9, and now you're back to number 7. So I was wondering if
No,
you are trying to, you are now showing the slide that you want to share with us. It's perfectly
Okay,
all right.
you're in the... Okay, sorry. Investigating sound as a fundamental element of dramaturgy challenges us to consider how sound shapes meaning within choreography and influences the way you experience performance. Since dramaturgy is always embedded within specific choreographic projects, mapping sound's dramaturgical role necessitates analyzing concrete examples. So, we are going to the first example, finally, where I will talk about accumulation of meaning. I will begin the performance by Pina Bausch's an exemplary case, not only because for how it uses music to build meaning, but also Bausch's decisive influence on the European dance scene. And I want to say that this performance has been redone by this year again, by the first performance, so it is all still current. She elevated music beyond a passive backdrop, treating sound as a core element of dramaturgy. In her work, music evokes historical and cultural associations, shaping perception and emotional response in real time. Sound and movement are inseparable, reinforcing the idea that both are socially and culturally charged forces that shape memory and identity. While Bausch avoided rigid interpretations, she didn't reject the idea of conveying meaning. Communication was central to her creative process. In contact, she wove together movement, gesture, pose, facial expression, and stereotypical representation of gender identity in everyday life, integrated these elements with sound. Her selection, ranging from 30s German dance hall tunes to tango, was closely tied to these portrayals, deepening the audience's understanding of the human condition within a specific cultural context. A powerful example is her use of tango in the scene depicting antagonistic violent interactions between heterosexual couples. While tango is often associated with elegance and nostalgia, it also embodies passion, power, and gender dynamics. Its sound, the tango sound, in a non-verbal way, represents past struggle and antagonistic relationships, while improvising. The cultural practices and ideologies tied to this Argentinian couple dance add depth to context of reinforcing the structure and actions on stage, while allowing for multiple interpretations shaped by each viewer's experience and knowledge of the discourse surrounding tango. Here, tango is not merely a symbol, it becomes integral to the performance's dramaturgy, immersing the audience in a performative experience. By treating sound as fundamental to dramaturgy, Contact demonstrates how music can evoke historical and cultural association while shaping reception and emotion in real time. Using existing music to accumulate meaning in contemporary choreography remains relatively uncommon still today. However, choreographers such as Jerome Bell, Marlene Monteiro Freitas, Ashley Parolin, Martin Zimmerman, and Evripidis Laskaridis, to name but a few, have embraced this approach, integrating music from various sources to deepen the emotional, narrative, or conceptual layers of their work. By repurposing existing composition, whether classical, popular, or experimental, they create intricate dialogue between movement and sound, senses and intellect, allowing audience to engage with familiar musical elements in a new and an unexpected way. And I will go to my next example, that is Tumulus and In Absentia, two performances by François Chillot and composer Geoffroy Jourdan. They are both seamless fusion of music and dance. In both works, performances were airy, electric costumes, some nearly naked, others draped on soft, voluminous garments, reminiscent of Renaissance attire. They form a polyphonic choir, their voices echoing earliest music European choral tradition. Their fluid, continuous movement merges with the evolving soundscape, each element shaping the other. As one review described it, the work is a tribute to polyphony that reconciles song and dance. This synthesis of bodies and voices, combined with artificial movement, music, decor, and costumes, heightens the theatricality of the performances, evoking the ballet comique of the late 16th century. However, rather than directly referring this historical form, the works reimagine it as an immersive interdisciplinary spectacle. Signon does not merely invoke history, he reinterprets performatively, treating the past as fluid and malleable. As both a choreographer and historian, Signon draws deeply from the past, connecting the sensuality of movement with the evocative power of song. He describes vocal practice as a means of summoning historical references that choreography alone cannot convey, as he says, cannot bring up. I have been developing a dance-ibric form of expression, he says. Vocal practices can always be a way for me to summon specific historical references that cannot be brought out by choreography alone. His performances challenge linear narrative of dance, history, gender, and identity, encouraging spectators to experience history through both body and voice. Meaning in this work emerges not just from the choreography itself, but from the knowledge and perception of its viewer. And I will go to the third example. Do I have still some time? Okay, I'm going. It is a piece by Claire Cunningham. It is a piece by, two pieces by contemporary African choreographers, Serge Koulibaly and Ilya Shirichava.
I'm afraid your 15 minutes is now running out, so I would be really appreciate if you could wrap up. And if you have time left, I'll give some time to you.
I would say that I will summarize it. These two performances go back to traditions of Africa, and they traverse tradition in a contemporary way, and they bring all the discourse of how tradition is still experienced in Africa. So this way, it is presented as an encounter, because also the experience in Africa, I have a sense, it's a product of encountering the Western colonial practices and their tradition. And the last piece, it's a piece because it was by a disabled artist who sings on stage, and her last piece, she's both singing and dancing with crutches, and uses music and way of moving to say her autobiographical narrative that is goes beyond her personal experience. So I will finish with this, hoping that both choreographers will treat music this way, accumulating and merging and go deeper into the discourses that sound brings with it as a performance on itself, and also audience start hearing in a different way. And thank you for your patience and attention.
Thank you very much, Pascavi, and really sorry for my intervening
Sorry.
and
No, it's okay. And
blocking your
also,
way. But, just to leave some time left for a session. Now, fourth speaker is, as you all know, Scania Sompibun. She's the first female vice president of Chulalongkorn University Student Affairs. And Chulalongkorn University has a long history since 1917, so this is a historic moment. Her research covers reinvented popular performances, soap operas, country music, intercultural theater, and she is not only in a very responsible and prestigious position, but also she is a professional performer, singer, playwright, and director. So she has so many professional facets. So the title of her paper is Transforming from Guilty Pleasures to Culture Vanguard. The emergence of Molam, Lukthun, and Rodhe as the defining sounds of the Alpha generation. Sorry about my poor pronunciation, but yes, Kani, please.
Thank you so much. Okay, I have shared my slide already. Okay, I shared it already. Do we need to share it again? Okay, it's coming. While driving on the expressway, I enjoy singing along to Thai Lukthung and Molam songs with great enthusiasm. However, when I open the window to hand money to the toll booth attendant, I switch the radio to FM 88, a station that plays English music. I then express my gratitude after receiving the receipt, using a Bangkokian accent typical of the Sukhumvit area. This is done to align with the image of the car brand, the persona of a city dweller, and my identity as an educated individual. This scene can be referred to as a guilty pleasure. It involves a state where one feels bad for enjoying a particular work of art, believing they shouldn't enjoy because it lacks of aesthetic value or is considered aesthetically bad. Lukthung and Molam, the popular forms of Thai folk music, are distinct. Molam is distinctively associated with the Isan region or northeastern region and Lao culture, while Lukthung has a broader appeal throughout Thailand, and there sometimes have been marginalized as the music of the lower classes, particularly by urban elites whose cultural preferences often reflect their desire to maintain a sophisticated image and social status. Lyrics of Lukthung songs in the past often focus on the rural life, such as the experiences of farmers and laborers and the social issues that they face, including the exploitation and deception of rural people by urban society, especially by the inhabitants of Bangkok. So Lukthung music has often classified as the music of socially disadvantaged groups. However, nowadays, enjoying Lukthung and Molam songs or dancing to the music of these genres in a road hair procession or a truck parade with music is no longer something to feel embarrassed about. In fact, young generation, for example, in this room, can I claim of you love Lukthung and Molam? Hopefully, feel cool and stylish for being able to appreciate Lukthung and Molam. Over the past decade, this is kind of road hair music. You see, they use the coach, bus, or truck and put a music band on it, and then play the very beatable and danceable music, and then people around can dance together with them. It started from the Isan region, but now it's very popular throughout Thailand. Okay. The song has evolved with the rise and emergence of a new generation of Luktung Isan, or Molam artists, including Lamyai Hai Tongkam, who became famous with the song Pusao Ka Lo. So in Thai accent, Pusao Ka Lo, and it's kind of, Isan language, dialects. It introduced a fresh approach by presenting a story about a woman who enjoys wandering alone, likes a particular man, the man that she loves, and waits for him to break up with his girlfriend so that he can be her boyfriend. So the story is changed from the past. The Isan style country song with an exciting and catchy vibe like Pa Mia Ma Loi. It means let's break up with your wife by Kat Arya. This is the name of the singer. Has released that appeal to the younger generation because the song's theme is about a woman who doesn't like men who are already in relationship or married. So if a guy truly likes her, he should break up with his wife. The catchy bold phrases in the song "Pa Mia Ma Loi Chai Bo." So it's not Thai dialects. It in a central language. It is a language. It mean let's break up with your wife. Are you brave enough to choose me over her? This combination of Isan language and energetic danceable melody makes the song fun and popular among youth. So that is interesting song by, her name is Proud, a Luktung Isan song known for the song Chi Vit Mia Chao, or the life of the rented wife. The rented wife is kind of sex worker, and this phrase used like 50 years ago, 50, 60 years ago, among during the period of Vietnamese war in Thailand. This song released in 2024, last year, and it different from another song. It's named Letter Love from Mia Chao. Say again. Sorry, Love Letter from a Rented Wife, sung by Mani Maniwan in the left-hand side. This is 1967, like 40, nearly 60 years, different. And the situation of these two songs are the same. They describe about the rented wife lives. But for the first song, like 60 years ago, please read the translation in English. I will sing in Thai and, in the left-hand side. Okay. ไอเขียนเลตเตอร์ถึงเธอเดียจอนเขียนในแฟลตที่อยู่เคยนอนจังหวัดอุดรประเทศไทยแลนด์ I broken heart you must understand จอนจ๋าจอนดอลลาร์ขาดแคลนเมีย second hand ของอยู่ยังคอย but the second one is เสียงคนลือกันแล้งเศร้าว่าน้องเป็นเมียเช่าพวกทหารฝรั่งก็แล้วแต่เขานี่มีสตังค์เขาบ่ฮู้อิหยังก็พากันเว้าไป The first song described that the Mia Chao or the rented wife was in the very sad emotion because the GI soldier abandoned her and left her alone, and she needs some money, particularly the dollars. And the end of this song is described that she relied on DDT to commit a suicide. So this kind of black comedy because she has a limited in English. So the song describes her mixing Thai words and English words to show that it's kind of funny, but actually a tragedy of the life of the rented wife in Thailand at that time. For the second song last year, they describe the life 60 years ago, but it's kind of she willing to be this kind of working at this job, and she got money, and she doesn't care that people talk. So I emphasize that I don't care. The people gossiping from dawn to dusk, saying I'm a hard wife or a rented wife to foreign soldiers. But it's all up to them. I've got money. They don't know anything. Yet they keep talking, and I don't care. The content and emotion in the two songs about the rented wife of the GI soldiers reflect the difference in belief system and worldviews. This contrast makes the lyrics of the second song express individuality, liberality, and a disregard for the opinions of others. For more than that, there are bands and singers who have taken Isan music or Molam song to international stage, such as the Paradise Bangkok, Molam International Band, and she is one of the most famous Rasmi Isan Soul. Her music fuses traditional Molam and Cambodian style with a Western and African influences. More than that, there are also foreign bands that have embraced Lutung and Molam music, researching, practicing, and creating their own works. And his name is Krung Bin Band. Krung Bin means in Thai a plane, and they are American. They reinterpreted 60s and 70s Molam and Lutung music along with Asian folk music into a new world, a new sound. And last but not least, Soy 48 as a Japanese DJ and music artist passionate about Thai Lutung and Molam music. So they have worked on a book titled Trip to Isan and brought in Japanese language, which comprising information about the music of the Isan region. They also create an Isan hip hop map that allows people to scan and listen to music while exploring the origins of the artist. This is from Japanese artists did this to Thai Isan music. So Gen Z, Generation Z. Actually, in my paper, I have written Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha just only 8 years old. Sorry, Gen Z. Generation Z, like they were here, not just a passive consumers, but the creators themselves. When a song or trend goes viral, they can put their own spin on it, whether by covering music, creating dance routines, or producing other content in their unique style, all through platforms that allow anyone to participate and own the content. As such, they are both consumers and creators of content, presenting and expressing their identities in dynamic and personal ways. Raymond Williams outlines the various elements that contribute to the formation of a group, allowing its members to connect and feel a sense of belonging. These elements range from shared social backgrounds and political views to body language and generation experiences, all of which combine to shape a new style. So, the new style or the new identity isn't about preserving one singular identity, but rather about branding multiple identities and exploring how they can coexist. The songwriters are creative in merging musical and cultural performance differences because it's something so cool, allowing the audience to enjoy a mix of modern music culture with contemporary elements. So these elements vary across genres and songs as well as dance styles. It's not about the old crashing with the new, but about a fusion of modernity, finding ways to integrate them. And this is me and the two Japanese artists, and they are now in Thailand because we have planned to do something about music and plan to do practical research about 70 and 80 popular songs together. So, yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your wonderful paper and, of course, for your wonderful song. Now, I suppose we have Juana Cristia Grigorescu from Romania on Zoom as our chief discussant. Juana, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hello,
I'm
Juana.
happy to follow you today, and I listened to very interesting and vivid papers. and I'd like also the performative aspects of today intervention.
Yes, of course. And before I give it also, and may I say that she is an ex-com member of IATC, a new elected, and yes, this is her second time to act as an chief as a discussant for our conference. So, Warner, please comments, impressions, please.
Yes, I was very interested in this last intervention because it offered me a perspective of how to think about new forms of popular music, which we generally judge as subculture in my country. And it offers us a new perspective about how the new generation, the Z generation, which grew up with networks and with digital culture, appropriate these forms and transform them into a form of contemporary art communication. So we have in Romania a form which is called manele. It is a form of music which combines a popular music, Balkanic sounds, with forms of with texts which are very satirical and also talks about marginalized or about poor people. So I found a very interesting connection between this form of Romanian popular culture and what Sukanya offered us. So I think there are some very interesting subjects. Also, I'd like a lot Richard Kukuta's effectiveness of communication, because I appreciate her very sharp and clear way of talking about this idea of transmission and understanding what cares means in arts and how we can develop this care from artistic to social and activist involvements of young audience, young girls through arts. So I think there is a wide range of subjects and topics which can be developed from this very generous theme of the conference, trans, which gives us many ideas to think about them and develop them in our cultures, going home and reflecting a little on what we heard these 2 full and very generous days. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, yes, indeed. And let me tell you, we in Japan have also that sort of traditional, so-called traditional, although it was actually invented in late 19th century. It is called enka. The content often seems to reinforce the rather outdated and now inappropriate relationship between men and women. But they don't die away. And yes, they are played in the tourist bus, and they are usually popular in rural audiences. But at the same time, many younger singers enter the market to have a new claim for fame. And yes, well, content-wise, perhaps melody-wise or music-wise, it may be different, but there are so many songs which are about those young people being unable to surmount the older value. And they have to live with it, and somehow they seem to be enjoying it. I'm not quite sure why, but that's life. So it happens everywhere, and of course, it happens in we'll say southern blues in the United States, where all the subject is all the songs are dominated by the infidelity of a man or a woman. So there were, yeah, those are and those will remain the kind of subject that is at the core of some people, regardless of the class, regardless of region. Of course, there are regional differences, admitting that there are regional differences. Yes, now I think I should open the discussion to the floor and invite some questions.
Can I put a question?
Yes, please.
I'm very interested in how often the actors using wheelchairs or in with disabilities are present in stage, because Kathy Pool, sorry if I didn't well.
Yeah, we call him Boone.
Okay, how often is present this type of actors, and how are they perceived, and maybe present with actors which are not disabled? How often is this phenomenon present in your stages? Because we saw in European theater some very interesting performances and artists which are preoccupied and use and develop this way of according to this type of people the floor and the voice, to giving them voice.
Yeah. Yep. So thank you for your question. Here at the Faculty of Arts, at our department, actually we just have the very first master degree students who are in acting program. That's on she's on the wheelchair throughout, like since birth, and actually that's she's one of the reason that I start researching on this topic, and I reach out to my colleagues in the U.S. as a speech language pathologist and a voice specialist. We just realized that it's a domain that even in the voice science world or voice care, it's still there's a big gap for this group of people, because in the past I think what we use a theater or like singing and dancing, we use it for patient, right? We use it with to help with maybe elderly or patients who need to boost up their energy or boost up their physical and mental well-being. But this research is going through like a kind of a parallel studies, but from a different side, where these people, the group of people who are using wheelchair, who want to step out and work or practice as a voice professional, like actor, singer, and that's something that's the start of this studies. I have to accept that we still don't have like a vast numbers of actors using wheelchairs who present themselves as, or express their desire to be an actors. But we believe that if we promote that and we make an inclusive practice for them, we can incorporate these people to join us in the world of theater and express and help us spread the world of theater in a more inclusive practice. Even in the U.S., I don't think there's like a large numbers of wheelchairs actors on Broadway. I think there's a couple of them that finally make it to Broadway. But that's there's different types of actors. There are more aspect to think about, like what certain professional actors are, right? And that's we just want to make sure that these people, when they join the theater society, they can do it effectively in a supportive way and safely. That's a very important.
Thank you. Yes. We still have like 9 minutes. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Yeah. I have a question to Felicia. Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Yeah. I'm Boom. It's very interesting.
Nice to
I
meet you.
love how your study talk about care, and that's the word that it's very challenging to define sometime. And I love how you look at the the kind of performativity of the words and use performance to kind of challenge and find and invent the new meaning from different perspective of languages, and that's really fascinating. Here at the Faculty of Arts, we also work together with the Faculty of Medicines and trying to use theater to help train, because healthcare is another type of care, right? And we help train
Absolutely.
new becoming soon to be doctor, soon to be medical doctor about like empathy when like communicating when they have to provide care for patient. And from your studies, I feel like there are new, like more innovative definition of care. And I'm not sure if you think about finding like these, put your thesis and your studies into like the domain of like practice domain, like healthcare, and maybe help them trying to define how to provide care to patients, to those in need, in a more, in a practical or in any practices.
Yeah, this is a very interesting comment. So thank you so much, Boom, for your question. If I go back to the case study that I presented today, I only focused on a couple of initiatives. But for instance, during the pandemic, one of the initiatives that was the most maybe international in the sense that it touched not only theaters in France, but also Italy and Canada, was an initiative that was called, and it was also started by this artist at the Théâtre National de la Colline, and it was called Au creux de l'oreille, meaning in your ear. So basically, artists associated with this theater in a volunteer capacity, they would call people who were interested in this initiative via even the phone or WhatsApp or different other platforms, and they would read a piece of literature or theater or something they had a personal interest in, and to people who were in confinement, so who were under lockdown, who had no access to theaters or to different kinds of arts, mostly because in Europe at least most theaters were closed during those lockdowns. And so this kind of initiative was also spread out to hospitals. And there is a researcher and a therapist who did a study on the impact that this initiative had on the patients who received these calls and messages from the artists. And they were concluding that it had a positive impact on their lives. So this kind of initiatives made me think as well of healthcare, which was so important in recent times. And it's not over. I mean, people suffer every day, even from long COVID or different other conditions. And arts are an important aspect to offering, if not palliative care, maybe just an improvement to their quality of life. So this is also something that I'm interested in, and I would like to maybe conduct a much broader research on this kind of topic. So thank you so much for your comment, because I find it really relevant and it's part of my research interest as well.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? May I ask one thing? Pascal, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it was very interesting you talk about sound as co-dramaturgy. And we kind of take it for granted that dance and music and sound, of course, come hand in hand on stage in a dance piece. But you, it sounds that you are talking about the new alignment and new deployment of those stage factors, sound, body, even voice, text, if there's any, light,
There is a
installations. So, no, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but am I correct in understanding that you explaining those shows as an example of new dramatic alignment of those factors? And what do you think is further possibility for sound on stage as co-dramaturgy? Because I think the word co-dramaturgy perhaps it can be understood a little better by expanding, by your expansion.
Okay, I was focusing on performance on choreographies that are not only focusing on dance. Because choreography today, especially after the 90s and this so-called non-dance scene, the European non-dance scene has been expanded so much so that at least even as I said in the main festivals, the things you see are not usually people dancing concomitant with music. So I'm not referring to this, and there is a bibliography that is studying this that is called musicology, I think, or something like that, and it's mainly focused on form. I'm interested in how today, and not only sound, but all the things that are on stage, I think we take for granted when I say interdisciplinarity, we assume there is something we all agree. I'm not so sure. I think there is a interdisciplinarity gives the possibility of artists to create and approaches of the elements, and sound is one of them. I'm focusing on sound because I know sound better than studied music. This is my first, where I come from originally. But sound is not only form. And in the main performances, we see background noise that it, at least contemporary. And there is a very nice way of also Jonathan Barrows explaining this. I'm not talking about this. I'm talking how can we treat music as a performance per se with many capacities, and as listeners, as audience, but also as artists. I'm referring to new dramaturgy, to this idea that is like in dance it is evident when we talk about dramaturgy, it's not about narration, or it's not about only the pace or the transitions between the scene. It's the internal logic that is communicated as it is, with its self-referential properties. I don't know if this was clear in my presentation. And I think there are, if we treat materials like this, like they bear multiple discourse, and we chose some aspects to focus on and put them together, I think I also as spectators, and we start translating all this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this is clear. I think there are too many, and it's not so usual. But now I have seen so many performances where the dancers sing on stage. And in Greece, there is I will call it a trend. There are some artists, young choreographers, and they also create the discourse of noise, theoretical discourse, anthropological discourse, how noise is, some people that are on the underground are called the noise of society. So sound is it's a discipline of itself. And I'm interested on this.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, while sound is an integral part of a piece, it can, or those theatrical or factors can alienate each other at the same time. So there is always a tension, a sort of tension between those factors. And I was wondering if you were trying to share with us the new kind of alignment of those factors. But yeah, I think you made it clear. Thank you very much. Now it's time. So again, let me renew my thanks to all our presenters and commentators. Thank you very much. And thank you for your patient listening. Thank you.